we did try to keep it all very sacred, and I think we did a good job because it's something that really didn't ever hit headlines.
Many of us know that Linda Blair actually started appearing in front of the cameras at a very early age. Her success was resounding, inspiring many other child actors in the industry. However, one thing that people don't talk about as much is the challenges and troubles that followed her success. Linda's life became haunted by her success, following her performance in the movie The Exorcist. Some of the issues that she faced came as a result of the role she played, exposing her to the darker side of fame. Join us as we tell the touching story of Linda Blair. Born on January 22, 1959 in St. Louis, Missouri, Linda Blair began her career in show business at an amazingly tender age. Her childhood was filled with the born knack of performance, and as early as 5 years old, she was modeling and appearing in commercials. With her schoolgirl charm and photogenic face, Blair soon became an advertiser's darling and a familiar face in television commercials. Early work in the field not only gave her much-needed experience in front of cameras, but also instilled in her a good work ethic and taught her a lot about the entertainment business. The big break for Blair came when, at only 12 years old, she landed a role in the horror film The Exorcist in 1973. Written by William Peter Blatty, the film is based on a novel with the same title. Directed by William Friedkin, the movie tells the story of a young girl, Regan McNeil, who becomes possessed by a demonic entity. It was a great performance for the role of Regan by Blair at such a tender age, adding a kind of haunting vulnerability and intensity to the role that really caught the audience. People were amazed by the way she could convey innocence and terror. The performance was so convincing that it remained etched in the minds of viewers and critics alike, earning her widespread acclaim along with a nomination for the Best Supporting Actress Oscar Award. At the time, she made quite an impression in the industry as a child actor and managed to engrave her name in Hollywood history. The success of The Exorcist was second to none. It became a sort of cultural touchstone, breaking box office records and continuing to fuel a series of conversations and controversies with its graphic and disturbing content. Right in the middle of this phenomenon was Blair's performance, and the young actress very soon found herself as one of the most spoken names of her generation. Her personification of such a hard and challenging role left the audience spellbound, and her talent was appreciated by all. The movie became a blockbuster and opened all the right doors for Blair as offers started pouring in from all sides for new projects. However, despite the success that she enjoyed from the success of The Exorcist, life was just about to get pretty rough for the young star. There were really gray areas along the line for Blair. The very role that launched her into the limelight stereotyped her into similar roles, mainly in the horror genre. At the time, this was a natural progression for her career, but in retrospect, it was incredibly limiting, stopping her from really exploring her talent as an actor with a variety of characters and genres. She continued to play victims or the possessed, treading very familiar ground from her breakout role. This, of course, proved to be a double-edged sword, which kept her in the public eye but also hampered her efforts to break free from the shadow of her role in The Exorcist. The challenges did not deter her, and she continued working in the entertainment world, taking up different movie roles as in Born Innocent in 1974, a television series that further worked to pair her with intense and dramatic roles. She went on to star in the sequel of her first movie, Exorcist II: The Heretic, in 1977, but it never reached the critical or commercial success that the first had. During this time, Blair remained a darling among fans of the horror genre, who admired the commitment and nuance that she brought to her roles. Aside from her acting career, one of the other causes that she had championed was animal rights, which had grown close to her heart and has been so dear to her all her life. Her love for animals eventually made her open the Linda Blair World Heart Foundation, a non-profit organization responsible for abused and rejected animals' rescue and rehabilitation. That would go on to be part of her legacy, really bringing out her compassionate side and her commitment to building a better world. In retrospect, Linda Blair's early life and career contained it all from incredible successes to some really weird challenges. Her early commercial work was the precursor to her future acting career, and then came that unforgettable performance in The Exorcist that launched her into stardom and forever branded her presence into popular culture. Notwithstanding the challenges of typecasting, Blair's talent and perseverance have secured a consistent presence within the entertainment business. Her film works and her activism also goes on to inspire and resonate deeply with people everywhere in the world, thus reinforcing her status as an icon. However, the filming of The Exorcist in 1973 was as harrowing off-screen for Linda Blair as it was on-screen. Although she was only 12 years old when she started working on the film, Blair faced a number of physical and emotional challenges during the production. The role of Regan McNeil, a young girl possessed by a demonic entity, required an extraordinary level of commitment and endurance, and Blair rose to the occasion with remarkable professionalism. It also made her suffer terribly, both physically and psychologically. One of the biggest problems Blair had to face when filming The Exorcist was the physical challenge of her playing the role. The special effects and makeup involved in portraying Regan's possession were innovative for that time, but highly burdensome. She had to spend hours daily in a makeup chair as prosthetics, contact lenses, and all the other effects were applied to turn her into that terror that audiences would later view on screen. The process was long and painful. The contact lenses that gave Regan her demonic eyes were painful and irritating, while harnesses and rigs used in some of the more extreme scenes, like the bed-shaking scene, left her bruised and sore. Blair would later disclose that she injured her back on set and had pain that would have very lasting effects on her health. Coupled with the mental torture was her later diagnosis of scoliosis, which is an abnormal curve of the spine, which was diagnosed when she was in her teens. Though the exact cause of her scoliosis may not be certain, all those physical tussles required for The Exorcist probably worsened the condition. The injury she had while filming, coupled with rapid growth spurts so common for her age, probably contributed to her scoliosis. This was yet another hardship in her life, as she was required to wear a back brace and start attending physical therapy. These further afflictions didn't hinder Blair, as she persisted in the resolution of continuing her career in acting. Many acknowledge that she showed remarkable courage for someone her age. Beyond the physical stress, Blair also faced some challenges with the press after the film gained widespread acclaim. As the film became well known, Blair found herself thrown into the limelight in ways overwhelming for any young teenager. The press, fascinated by her performance and the controversial subject matter of the film, often asked her some very complex and probing questions about her role in it. These were difficult questions for a young Blair to understand, as she worked through the intense experience of making the film. Questions of possession, demonic forces, and the psychological effects of her role were not only inappropriate for someone of her age, but deeply unsettling. Blair would later recall feeling confused and pressured by the media's expectations to say something profound, as she struggled to articulate her thoughts on topics that were far beyond her understanding. The media's fascination with Blair didn't end with interviews. She became an object of public scrutiny and criticism, especially among those who felt that The Exorcist was propagating satanic ideologies. Viewers who were unable to differentiate the actress from the character accused Blair of indulging in occult practices or promoting demonic themes. Not only were such accusations groundless, but they were also highly unfair to the young actress, who was only performing the role of her character in a work of fiction. Even threats were received by the young, innocent Blair from people who said that she was promoting Satan. These threats were really terrifying for Blair and her family, who had to take special precautions to make sure she would be safe. The backlash reminded her of how polarizing this film was going to be, and the challenge of being a part of it. This was a huge thing for her psychologically. Later, Blair would talk about how hard it was trying to get a real-life identity, since she had to grapple with the imprint of the character Reagan in the public imagination. She tells of wrestling to get beyond the fear that people were always only going to think of her as that possessed girl from The Exorcist and nothing more. She wanted people to see more in her, as a person with her own dreams and hopes. That was further compounded by the fact that she was still a teenager, trying to make her way through all the challenges of adolescence with the pressures of fame and residual trauma from her on-set experiences. Despite these many hardships, Blair's talent and willpower still managed to surface. She continued working in the entertainment business, playing parts that utilized different facets of her craft. However, the shadow of The Exorcist remained with her, and she was frequently typecast in similar roles within the horror genre. It is this same typecasting that kept her from making more varied arguments for her career as an actor, but Blair remained committed to her career and to finding ways to grow as an artist. Other than her acting, she channeled her energy into advocacy, especially in the sphere of animal rights. This led to her founding the nonprofit organization Linda Blair World Heart Foundation for the rescue and rehabilitation of abused and neglected animals. It is through this that she finds fulfillment, a means by which she can leave a mark on or bring meaning to the world, rather than through most of the cruel realities she went through in her career. Somehow her work with the foundation was still swallowed by her role in The Exorcist, reducing the visibility of her work. Linda Blair's story is filled with tales of her resilience and strength. Her challenges were not limited to physical hurts incurred during the filming of The Exorcist, but extended to her diagnosis of scoliosis as well, the relentless attention of the press, and even death threats against her by those who did not understand her acting a role in the film. Yet Blair overcame each of these trials with a real ability to endure and press on in what she loved doing. On or off camera, hers is a story of undaunted courage, determination, and an unending resolve to make a difference. Further in her life, there were many other twists and turns in her life and career following her meteoric rise with The Exorcist. While she did act in the years following the release of the film, she would take a step back from Hollywood to explore other passions, one of them being horse racing. These personal decisions, to an extent, were due to pressures such as typecasting and living in the shadow of that one iconic role. She decided to take a step back and plan her next step while engaging in other passions. However, she still got caught in some pretty messy controversies. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, Blair had begun to pull away from Hollywood's intense scrutiny and took more of an interest in horse racing, a love she had nurtured since girlhood. Horses had always brought comfort and happiness into Blair's life, and she found great solace in working with animals after the tumultuous years that followed The Exorcist. This would be her 6th year with horses, having participated in shows and even gone to training to ride as a pro jockey. Of course, horse racing wasn't some exotic pursuit for Blair, who threw the same passion, drive, and discipline into this rather dangerous sport as she had committed to. Hence, hours each day were passed either in training, tending to her horse, or perfecting her riding art. At one point in her life, horse racing gave her meaning and some respite from the relentless pressures of fame. However, in 1977, a shocking turn of events hit Blair as it entailed being dragged into the case of drugs that were prevalent all over the country. It turned out that the young actress was among a host of other people who were arrested for drug-related cases. She was busted in her home in Wilton, Connecticut, with some drugs found in her possession. For an innocent and untainted girl supposed to be as wholesome and pure, this was indeed a most shocking turn of events during this point in her life. This would ultimately be one of the most reprehensible moments to occur in Blair's life. The media smeared it all over the papers and sensationalized television. It not only seriously damaged her reputation but also affected her mental and emotional state to an enormous degree. Later, Blair spoke of the arrest as some sort of wake-up call for her. She stated openly that at the time she was doing drugs as part of an internal fight with fame pressures and her challenges of adjusting from child star to adult actor. This arrest brought her back to reality to face the consequences of her actions and to take responsibility for the path she chose. She pleaded no contest to charges against her and was sentenced to 3 years of probation. She also agreed to undergo drug counseling and to perform community service, which included speaking with young people about the dangers of using drugs. From this point forward, Blair began the process of rebuilding her career and also her personal life. That arrest was a turning point in the career of an actor like Blair. Not all of the momentum of fame and success she received with The Exorcist has been successfully recaptured since then, notwithstanding her effort to move on. Also, the stigma of the arrest and the typecasting effect slimmed down her opportunities in Hollywood. Though she continued acting both in film and on television shows, many of her appearances were either low-budget films or within the horror genre, which again led audiences to relate her to The Exorcist. Blair's efforts towards breaking free from this mold were usually met with reluctance, as casting directors and producers also found it quite challenging to cast her otherwise. One main obstacle that could be highlighted within Blair's life was the factor of public impression. Despite her being such a talented and versatile actor, far too many people seemed to hold on to that connection with Regan McNeil, and it was a connection that was hard to shake. All this typecasting was going to make it impossible for Blair to achieve the same level of success as in earlier years of her career. While she remained somewhat of an icon among fans of the horror genre, she was, for all intents and purposes, forgotten by mainstream Hollywood, which had moved on to newer stars and trends. In the years following her arrest, Blair continued rebuilding her life and career with roles in independent films, television movies, and guest appearances on popular TV shows. She also became an advocate for animal rights, which was a cause that had always been close to her heart. With her animal protection work, she found the deep fulfillment and goal she was looking for. So in 2003, Blair made the dream even more potent by opening an organization that till now changed and keeps on changing for good the lives of animals. This way, she was able to give herself a life away from the challenges of Hollywood while planning her next big step. Blair's dedication to helping rescued animals continued on an upward course, with undeterred grit to get a fresh lease toward life moving ahead. She came to understand her status as an icon within the horror genre and sought continually to connect with her audience through conventions and public appearances. She would never again achieve the level of fame she enjoyed with The Exorcist, but she did find ways to reinvent herself and make important contributions to the world. Blair's story was a tale of perseverance and fortitude, whereby she surmounted personal and professional barriers to build a life filled with purpose and passion. Linda Blair's story continues to inspire many young talents in the industry. She wasn't afraid to explore her talents, as is seen in her move to horse racing. Although she never climbed out from under the shadow of The Exorcist, Blair has had a fabulous and unique career as an actress and as an outspoken animal rights activist. She is a resilient and determined lady who stands to remind one that even in the face of huge challenges, redemption is possible, and a life of meaning and fulfillment can be built. And that will be all on the life of Linda Blair. We will see you in our next upload.